The Truth About Vaccines is a riveting new docuseries that exposes the truth behind vaccines. Do vaccinations confer immunity? Are there natural options to vaccinations? What questions should you ask before you vaccinate? Were vaccines responsible for the decline in polio, smallpox, and pertussis? What about the flu shot and the HPV vaccine? Are they safe? Why do outbreaks occur mostly in vaccinated populations? There's so many questions around vaccines, and we need to expose the truth. That's why I'm inviting you to watch the brand new docuseries that is coming up in April, and you can attend for free. Go to learntruehealth.com/vaccines. That's learntruehealth.com/vaccines to enroll to watch the free screening of the revolutionary docuseries, The Truth About Vaccines. There's over 60 scientists and expert doctors in boosting the immune system and in understanding vaccines and how they work. They're here to teach us for free what we can do naturally to boost the immune system and fully understand the impact that vaccines have on our lives, on our bodies, and on our children. We need to expose this information for the sake of ourselves and our future. Go to learntruehealth.com/vaccines and sign up now so that you can get free access as the docuseries comes out in April. Because knowledge is power, watching this will help you and empower you and your family to make the best choices you can for your future. learntruehealth.com/vaccines. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 120. Well, today's episode is going to be fantastic because we have on the show Dr. Izabella Wentz. She's a doctor of pharmacy, and she specializes in helping us to create healthy thyroids, which so many of us are suffering from hypothyroidism, whether we know it or not. So Izabella is going to help us uncover what we can do to create a healthy thyroid. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yes, absolutely. I've looked at your work, and what you're doing to help people create a healthy thyroid is fantastic. Before we get into the what we can do to create healthy thyroid, I'd love for you to share with us a bit about you and what led you to this career path.
So in full disclosure, I was never actually interested in the thyroid gland during pharmacy school. I just thought that thyroid disease was something people eventually got as they got older. And I thought, you just take this one medication and there's nothing else you can really do for it. And I didn't really understand why people continued to struggle even when they had the medications. And I also did not believe in alternative medicine or diets or any of that or supplements. I just thought it was all kind of, baloney. It wasn't until I was diagnosed myself with Hashimoto's thyroiditis and hypothyroidism in 2009, after almost a decade of some pretty strange, debilitating symptoms. So I was, just to give you an example, it started around age 18, and I'm sitting in my dorm room, and all of a sudden I'm jumping out of bed at 9 a.m. at the University of Illinois, and I run to my chemistry final, which had started at 7:30 that morning. And, at that point I missed my chemistry final, and I, of course this wouldn't be so unusual for a college student, except for that I laid down the night before at 3 p.m. just for like a 15-minute nap. And I wasn't able to wake up until 9 a.m. the next day. And this was not the kind of person I was. I was very responsible. I was a straight A student. I was very driven and very excited about life. And all of a sudden I found myself exhausted and sleeping for 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And nobody really knew what was wrong with me. I went to the campus clinic and, they just kind of brushed me off. I went home for the summer, with my tail between my legs, not having done as well in my classes as I had hoped. And I wanted to, I kind of felt bad because my parents are immigrants. We moved here from Poland, and I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. And they put like everything into sending me to college. And here I was, like a disappointment during my first year in college. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to get into pharmacy school because my grades were just not that great. And I, was like, I'm going to make it up to my mom. I'm going to wake up every morning and help her like clean the house while she's at work because my mom is obsessed with cleaning the house. And I would wake up every day at 3 p.m. when she was getting home from work. She would actually wake me up. And I would go to bed the night before at like 9 or 10. And sure enough, just 3 p.m. was my average waking up time. This kind of continued, and my parents took me to a psychologist. They said I was depressed, and I was like, okay, I guess, yeah, I am not feeling too happy with myself, right? And then that kind of continued, and eventually I got to a stable number of like maybe 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night when I used to thrive on 6 to 8. And then I just continued to have more and more symptoms. I did get into pharmacy school. I figured out how to get good grades and just, not hang out with friends pretty much. And I ended up then getting irritable bowel syndrome, and then getting panic attacks, and then getting anxiety, and then allergies. I became allergic to my sweet dog. And, just every year it seemed like my world was getting smaller and smaller to the point where I'm living in Los Angeles. I'm in my 20s, and I'm basically waking up, going to work, coming home from work, eating something, and passing out on the couch to do it all again the next day. And, I clean the house on the weekends. And that was pretty much my life for almost a decade until I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And then that's when I really became interested in the thyroid gland. And I wanted to figure out what I can do to make myself feel better and what I can do to, hopefully help others with the condition once I got myself well.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe your life for that whole decade. How did you finally stumble upon that it was Hashimoto's?
I kept going to doctors, and I was like, every year I was like, I'm tired. Something's wrong with me. And they were like, oh, well, maybe you're depressed, or some of them said it was in my head. And I think they might have, checked the hypochondriac box on their files. And then the funniest, most amusing answer I got was, well, you're just getting older. This happens as you get older. And I was 25, right? But
Amazing. And that was an MD?
that was, yeah, all of these were MDs. I mean, I was a conventionally trained pharmacist, so I wasn't thinking outside of the box. I wasn't thinking about integrative practitioners, even though Arizona and California, where I lived at the time, it had plenty amazing people that I'm, really good friends with now. That one of them is Alan Christensen. He was 2 miles away from my home when I first started having symptoms, but I didn't know to look for those kind of doctors. What finally got me the diagnosis was having worked in healthcare for a few years. I was working as a consulting pharmacist, and I used to advocate for people with developmental disabilities. My official job title was consultant pharmacist, but I really saw myself as an advocate for them because many times they weren't able to voice what was going on with them. And so I was the person that was sent in to their homes, or they were brought into our team to look at if they were experiencing side effects from medications, if they were potentially not getting the treatments that they would have benefited from. And at that point, I kind of realized that not all doctors are created equally, right? And so I started seeking out doctors that were willing to go deeper with me and do more testing. They were still conventional medical doctors, but I ended up getting diagnosed with Hashimoto's and subclinical hypothyroidism to the point where I needed thyroid hormone replacement in 2009 by a physician during my annual physical.
It's just amazing that you went all those years, and it took you being very persistent to finally uncover what was going on. Of course, now a diagnosis doesn't actually uncover the root cause, and that's what holistic medicine is all about, but at least it pointed you in the direction that you could begin to learn. And this is why I stress, get it. I mean, the term second opinion should really be just keep getting different opinions until you finally get some traction. And this is why, again, I love naturopaths, because with an MD, you can't spend the detailed time with them, just the way the system is set up. Whereas with naturopaths, which are licensed in over 18 states, and it's growing, but with naturopaths, they can spend 30, 40, an hour, sometimes 90 minutes with you, and really get to the root cause. And they love getting to the root cause. So that's why I love holistic medicine, is that we're looking at going much deeper and not brushing people off and just going, oh, you mean this crazy symptom you've had since you're 18? Yeah, it's just you getting older. Doesn't matter that you're 25, which is crazy. Oh, I'm so excited that you're helping people heal Hashimoto's. I've actually gotten a lot of emails from listeners wanting this information. So it's perfect timing that you're here. So when you got that diagnosis, then what did you do? Did you immediately start looking into natural remedies, or did you, how long did it take you before you began to see that there was a way to heal the body from within?
So it actually took me a while, because I was very skeptical of every natural therapy. And the way that I first got into it is at first, of course, I felt validated. And it was finally I have a name for this thing. Like, finally, this all makes sense. And I started looking, of course, I talked to my doctors, and they told me about getting on levothyroxine. And then I started looking at what was the patient experience with thyroid disease. In my work as a consultant pharmacist, I was working with a lot of clients with rare disorders where there wasn't a lot of well-described interventions for them. And so a lot of times I was spending countless hours in the current research in medical journals and Medscape, and also on patient forums, trying to figure out what's working for people with this condition. And so I kind of took that same approach for my own condition, where I was like, I wonder, for my client, I have various clients where doctors would say one thing, and then I would do deeper research for them, and it would be like, oh, no, absolutely, you should never use this treatment for a person with this condition, or a person with this condition would really benefit from this other treatment. And so I was like, I wonder if there's anything like that for Hashimoto's that people just don't know about. And I came across a lot of exciting things. One of them was the gluten-free diet, and I had an appointment with a wonderful endocrinologist, one of the top ones in the country. And I took this, research to him. I printed this article, and I said, what do you think about me going gluten-free? And to that, he said, you don't have celiac disease. All you need to do is take levothyroxine. And I was discouraged by that. And then I kind of started looking into different things. There was a medication known as low-dose naltrexone. And as a pharmacist, I'm like, oh, great, there's a medication that could help my immune system. And so I kind of started, just getting my feet wet with, I guess, alternative medicine a little bit, where I tried low-dose naltrexone, and then I tried a little bit of acupuncture. And then it wasn't really until 2011, so it was over a year and a half after my diagnosis, where I had spent most of 2010 doing all this kind of research and thinking and looking at patient experiences and PubMed research, where I was like, January 1st, this is it. I'm really making a commitment to myself, and I am, I'm going to do everything in my power to give it my best to reverse this condition. And, quite frankly, that was the first time in my life where I was like giving it my all. And it was quite scary, because I was like, what if I try all these things and nothing happens? What kind of hope can I withhold, right? And I ended up going gluten and dairy free. That was my first area into functional medicine. And oh my goodness, Ashley, within 2 weeks, within 3 days, the acid reflux I had for 3 years was gone. My irritable bowel syndrome that I had for almost for 9 years, maybe 7 to 9 years at that time, that was gone within 3 days. My bloating was gone. All of a sudden I was like, where did these ab muscles come from? I've never had ab muscles, right? And all of these symptoms, I had carpal tunnel in both arms, where I actually had to leave my consultant job because I had to type up all these reports, and I couldn't do it. I had to wear arm braces, and I had to do the Dragon dictation software, because I was in so much pain all the time, that went away within 3 months. And it was like my thyroid antibodies started reducing, my panic attacks, like they were so bad. My husband was really into ultra marathons, and he would go out for like a jog for an hour, and he'd say, honey, I'll be back in an hour. An hour and 5 minutes would pass. And I kid you not, I'd be on the phone with like hospitals and like non-emergency dispatchers asking if anybody had a heart attack while running or got hit by a car. And once they told me that no, there was nobody in this area that this happened to, I'd be like, oh, he must have found another woman and ran off with her. And that used to be me. And then all of a sudden, my husband's going to Vegas with his friends, and I'm like cool as a pickle. And you know what I mean? Like it just transformed me as a person within a very short time, like, 6 months of almost a decade of being this kind of crazy, lazy person, right?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I have heard from several people over the last few years, since I've gone gluten free, that gluten causes leaky gut. Leaky gut causes the body to, and it will stimulate the immune system to create an autoimmune response. Not everyone who eats gluten will end up having an autoimmune condition, but if sort of like everything has to be sort of in alignment to create that. And so for you, the chronic inflammation that was happening was causing your wrist pain, for example, and it was showing up in different ways in the body that didn't seem like it was all connected, right? But then when you got rid of the foods that were harming your digestion, and creating that inflammation, that then all of a sudden all those different symptoms started to clear up, which is so amazing because you've got the top specialists, the top endocrinologists poo-pooing going gluten-free, for example, or considering that food might contribute to our health or our lack of health. And so it baffles my mind that you've got top doctors who don't consider that food also plays a role in our symptoms. Isn't it amazing?
It's just crazy to me. And I was told that the irritable bowel syndrome wasn't related, that the hair loss wasn't related, and all these things were not really related. And they absolutely were. And it's just really, it saddens me because I see this all the time when people are almost shamed for wanting to go gluten-free. There was an article my mom sent me the other day, which said that people do not need to be on a gluten-free diet unless they have celiac disease, and that somebody with Hashimoto's was on a gluten-free diet. And this, I think it was a registered dietitian that thought it was just ridiculous. Well, it's not ridiculous. In my research with people with Hashimoto, so after I got my health back, I started working with clients, and I found that about 90% of them felt better gluten-free. And then I decided to do a survey with my thyroid community, and about 2,232 people answered this survey, and 88% of them felt significantly better gluten-free with Hashimoto's, where only 3.5% reported having a celiac diagnosis. Now, anywhere from 1 to 15% of people with Hashimoto's will have celiac disease, because when you have one autoimmune condition, you're at greater risk. But, let's even say it was 15% of people who had celiac disease out of those 2,000 plus people. That's still a significant number of people without celiac disease that were benefiting from this diet. And, what's crazy is people said the gluten-free diet was more effective for fatigue, for losing weight, and for their mood and brain function than thyroid medication hormones. Wow. And that's just mind baffling that this diet, and I didn't ask them, was this more effective than that? But I just had people rate which specific intervention, how helpful was it? And more people thought that the gluten-free diet was helpful and had greater improvements with that diet than with thyroid medications.
Amazing. Now, so you got rid of gluten, which is basically barley, wheat, and rye, and then Dr. Joel Wallach, who's a naturopathic physician that I learned about this, being gluten free from, and he says also oats because there's a similar protein to gluten that's found in oats that can oftentimes create the same problems. And so barley, wheat, rye, and oats, basically avoid those. It doesn't mean you have to go grain free, although I know a lot of people who went 100% grain free and also felt amazing. So after you eliminated dairy, which I have also done, and it is like, for me, it was harder to eliminate dairy than gluten because dairy's in everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's in so many things. But finding the replacements you love, like finding the right ghee. I cook with ghee, which is clarified butter, and then I didn't feel so deprived. And then I found they're not organic, unfortunately, but I found nut pods to be my replacer for cream. And
Mm.
nut pods are delicious. You can find them on Amazon, but you can find them in most health food stores now. And there's no sugar added. All they are is coconut cream and almonds. And
Yummy.
yeah, and it's the best, because all those other non-dairy creamers have so much sugar and artificial stuff in it, and nut pods don't. Of course, if you have a Vitamix, you can make your own, but to save time, I use nut pods if I'm going to have coffee, and or if I need to cook with cream, like making mashed potatoes, which I hardly ever do. You can use nut pods for baking or cooking. And so those are my like two little tips for helping go dairy free. But after you went gluten and dairy free, that kind of opened your eyes and opened a door for you. What else did you then discover to help heal Hashimoto's?
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. And I would say though, just those two interventions were like, I mean, just transformed my life. But after that, it was also learning that my digestion had been impaired. And I had been taking acid suppressing medications for my quote unquote acid reflux. What was actually happening is I was having these symptoms that look like acid reflux because my body didn't have enough stomach acid. And so I was like making myself worse by taking all these medications, and I wasn't properly digesting my foods, which is probably what contributed to the food sensitivities. And it also meant that I became nutrient deficient and really was a big factor in my fatigue. So when you're not properly digesting your food, you're going to be more tired because your body's main function is pretty much to digest food. And if it takes more energy, like think of, when you have think of when you have like a computer and it's only got so much memory. If digestion is taking up so much of your memory, then you're just going to keep crashing your computer. And that's what was happening to me, where I was very, very tired because I wasn't digesting foods. And when I started taking digestive enzymes, betaine with pepsin with my protein containing meals, it was, I mean, just, I would say like it was like almost a miracle. I woke up the next morning at 5 a.m. rather than at my usual like 9 a.m. dragging myself out of bed to get to work. And I was bright eyed and bushy tailed. And I had like my sense of humor was back that I didn't have that sense of humor since like high school or college. And everybody was like, wow, you're like in the best mood ever. What's going on? And that was really a piece that gave me my life back. I felt like Bradley Cooper from the movie Limitless. And really the day that I started taking that supplement was the day that I started writing my book, Hashimoto's the Root Cause, because I knew like, wow, like if I can get my energy back and feel like this for the first time this had been over a decade at that point. This was like 2011. Then I can do anything. Like, and I felt very, very powerful, and like I could finally beat this condition, and like I could finally overcome this condition and then help others do so as well. I was like, wow, I found this. And after that point, it was going deep and investigating what systems were out of balance in my life. And it's been sort of almost like a fine tuning throughout the process where, yes, I had a lot of energy and I was feeling better, but I still had some residual thyroid antibodies and a few of my residual symptoms. And it was like, okay, let's now get into tweaking those around and moving different things. So I found out I had gut infections that I needed to treat. I had a few more food sensitivities that I needed to get rid of. I had some nutrient deficiencies. And I also found out that I had an impaired stress response. So I needed to work on that. And then I also had to adjust, get rid of some of the toxic backlog in my body. And, not everybody will have all these underlying imbalances, but that's kind of what comprises most chronic illnesses is a balance is a combination of those things where you have food sensitivities, when you have infections that are low grade and chronic, when you have nutrient deficiencies, when you have adrenal problems and maybe history of trauma that affect your stress response, and then you have toxins in your body and that leaky gut, and all of this together creates this inflammation in your body. And once you start making these changes and taking small steps in the right direction, you're going to start seeing a reduction in inflammation. For some people, they just get off of gluten and then they completely recover their health. Like their thyroid condition goes into complete remission. And, I had one client who had like 16 different symptoms. So she had PCOS, she had panic attacks, she had anxiety, depression, and pain in her body, and was sleeping 14 hours a night. And she kept rescheduling her intake with me, or kept rescheduling her appointment with me. And I was kind of like, what's going on here? Why does she keep rescheduling? But she had access to my group program that went through all of these different elements and things that you need to do. And finally, when we did schedule with her, I said, okay, you've got all of these health challenges. I can only go through, 3 of them right now because we only have an hour together. And she said, they've all resolved. I took charge of my own health and I got rid of gluten. I did a few of these other, supplements and nutrients, and I no longer have PCOS. I no longer have all the pain I used to have. My mood is so much better. I'm not sleeping as much as I was. And she had eczema and all these skin issues, all these inflammatory things going on. And they all went away. And she was like, how, this is what I want to talk to you about. What prenatal vitamin should I take? And what kind of nutrients do I need? Because I never thought I'd be able to be a mother. But finally, I now believe that it's possible. And these are, the kind of transformations that can happen when a person takes the first step and gets off of the inflammatory foods. And sometimes you need to take additional steps, but you're going to see improvements with every single step you take.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if you know this about me, but I was told when I was 19 years old that I'd never be able to have kids. And I had PCOS and other health issues. And then about 6 years ago, when I, turned away from allopathic medicine, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to naturopaths and start learning what I can do to take charge of my health. And I went from eating the dollar menu at Wendy's to being gluten-free and eating a whole foods organic diet. And my life changed overnight. And within 5 days of shifting my diet, my energy came back, my blood sugar was balanced. I was able to reverse diabetes, high blood pressure. But then through this, like you said, some supplements, some dietary changes, some lifestyle changes, and now I have a son. So I know exactly what you mean. Just because a doctor gives you a diagnosis and tells you you'll never get to do XYZ, or whatever a doctor says, that's not a life sentence. They're not some god. If you give your power away to a doctor, then your body, it's amazing, the mind-body connection. If you really believe something, you're going to set your life up on that path. Because if I really believed that doctor when I was 19, I might not have put all the effort into trying to get pregnant naturally with natural medicine. And so I might not have my son today. So we have to, just because a doctor says something to us, we have to keep looking, right? Just like if you had believed that top endocrinologist and not gone gluten-free, you wouldn't be here today.
No. And, and I just got tears in my eyes hearing your story. That's just such a powerful example of what can happen when we decide that we're in charge of our own healing, right?
Absolutely. And the people who I've met who have autoimmune conditions, they're such wonderful people, and sometimes there's this hint of hopelessness or fear of hopelessness and desperation because they've been through the ringer and they've been given this life sentence from their doctor, from their, I'm sure their doctor is well intended. But a lot of MDs will just tell you, you have this for the rest of your life. You have to be on this medication. And because they don't believe in, or they don't know that the body has this innate ability to heal itself. And if we could grow from a single cell into this amazing, 37.5 trillion cell being that you are now, imagine what your body can do if you give it the nutrients it needs and you just help it, like you said, detox, get rid of infections, and nutrify it and support digestion and heal digestion. So all these things add up. So this is what holistic medicine is all about. Now, it sounds like what you do with your clients is you really look to address, besides cleaning up diet, so you can decrease inflammation. It sounds like what you do is you look to see if there's anything else kind of hiding, like a toxic liver or like low-grade chronic infections. I'd love to know, how do you come to that conclusion? How would someone know if they have a low-grade, like SIBO, for example, have a low-grade chronic infection, or have liver issues, or sort of a toxic overload?
Yeah, so I'll give you some stats that might help with that. With working with people with Hashimoto's, that's pretty much the only kind of people I work with. I have found that close to 97% of them do have a toxic backlog. About 80% of them have gut infections, and that about 90 to 95% have advanced stages of adrenal dysfunction or an impaired stress response. So these are things that I sort of off the bat just address with everybody. And we start with liver support, and then we go into adrenal support, and then we go into supporting the gut. Sometimes when you do these things, toxins will leave on their own, and then your body will be strong enough to overcome infections. If not, then I will work through advanced protocols with them on figuring out what specific infections they have, and that would be through more advanced like functional medicine testing and through testing for toxins. So that I kind of decided, having worked with people, and it actually took me a long time to recover my health. But I didn't get into remission until 2013. I started really working for it in 2011, but I found out in 2009. And I'm always, things that keep me up at night is like, how do I help more people get better faster? And so I was like, how do I do this? Because I was kind of chasing individual infections, and I was having people do all this testing and trying to figure out like, okay, let's start a protocol for this infection. Let's start this, let's start that. And then a lot of times my clients would have adverse reactions to some of the supplements. And when I came to research more and learn more about it, I found out that this was because of the liver backlog issue. And then I just started putting all of my clients on liver support protocol before we started anything. And, the results I saw were like astounding. And within 2 weeks, 65% of people felt significantly better. People that had been working with me or functional medicine doctors or on their own for me, like over a year, on their own for sometimes 5-10 years, it was like, wow, like I'm feeling so much better. One woman was, this was around Christmas time. I put her on this liver support, and she had multiple chemical sensitivities. She had headaches, and she had skin issues, joint pains, and elevated thyroid antibodies. And, I was with complicated cases. I was not expecting to make really fast progress like that. She was already gluten-free. And then I put her on this liver support, and within like within the first 10 days, she sends me this email and she's like, you wouldn't believe this, but the multiple chemical sensitivities are gone. Like I can go shopping at the mall with my daughter again because, now like I'm no longer sensitive to the perfumes and the candles and all these other, smells that they have at the mall, which make life really, really difficult when you have multiple chemical sensitivity. Her headaches resolved, her joint pain resolved, and then her energy levels also increased, and then her thyroid antibodies also decreased within on her next lab test. And we kept working through more and more, but what I found is that 65% of people feel better within just that 2-week liver support. And that's something that I like to start everybody on, just because it can make such a big difference. Some people, the other 30% don't feel different at all, which is fine, but it can be something that can be helpful anyway. And then a few people had more symptoms, and then what we did for them is we actually gave them more magnesium, and that resolved the symptoms. So this is something that I do for everybody across the board now, because it's incredibly helpful for kind of kicking off your detox process, your detox systems, and to start to get things moving along and getting your body kind of like reset and refreshed.
That makes so much sense. I was actually, when you had mentioned that you start with liver and then go to adrenals and then go to gut, I was saying to myself, why that order? I thought it would be the reverse. I thought you'd start with the healing the gut, then go to adrenals, and then go to liver. So that makes total sense, though, because the liver has to process supplements too, and so if you're giving someone supplements to help them heal the adrenals, and the liver gets stressed out, then more symptoms are going to happen. So that makes sense. Because sometimes people will say, oh, supplements didn't work for me. I took some and it made it worse. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean the supplements don't work. It might mean that it's showing you the body, because the body speaks in symptoms. And so the body's speaking to you and saying, hey, look over here. Something's wrong over here. You mentioned that you have a specific liver support protocol. What is it?
So it's 4 parts. So one of the parts is removing toxins. The other part is adding supportive foods to help get rid of the toxins, adding supportive supplements, and then, of course, removing inflammatory foods. And so the foods that I always remove are going to be gluten, dairy, and soy for that 2-week process. And then we start adding in liver supporting foods. And so broccoli and crucifers. Now, this is a common thyroid myth that broccoli and crucifers are goitrogenic and people with thyroid disease should never have them. But that's actually not been proven to be relevant. And I actually find that people who eat these kinds of veggies actually feel a lot better. And then we also add in things like turmeric and curry to help with that. I do hot lemon water to kind of kick off the liver. That really helps to support the liver and get things moving. And then we also look at doing some fermented foods that help to support the microbiome in this process, because that's another way that we get rid of things. And then I look at adding, removing things from the home and from your personal care routine. So some of the biggest thyroid toxins are going to be fluoride. Some of the biggest thyroid toxins are going to be right in our home, right under our nose. So fluoride, this is found in our water supply, and this is found in our toothpaste. I recommend, as a very first easy step, is for everybody to get off of fluoride, and you get a reverse osmosis filter, or you can get bottled water. And then also get off of your toothpaste. So you can get a fluoride-free toothpaste, and also make sure that it's triclosan-free. Triclosan is an antibacterial soaps, and I'm really grateful that it was recently banned by the FDA because of thyroid disrupting activity. So it's no longer in soaps and it's no longer in lotions, but it's still in our toothpaste. So we have to remove that. And then looking at BPA. So BPA is a thyroid hormone disruptor that's found in plastics. One of my dear friends and colleagues, Dr. Datis Karazian, just published a study on this. And he's found that, sure enough, BPA cross-reacts with thyroid antibodies And so does BPS, which is what's found in BPA-free plastics. So,
Oh
yeah,
no, BPA-free plastics aren't healthy too?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to share that. When you told me that, I was just like, well, thank you for ruining my plans. But no, but you just get glass everything. So you can get beautiful mason jars and you can make your salads in there. You can make your smoothies in there. You can get beautiful reusable like marble mugs instead of getting the Starbucks mug or Starbucks, cardboard plastic things. So there's ways you can get rid of plastics, and definitely whatever has hot beverages or, hot acidic foods. So if you're thinking like you've got these plastic containers and you're microwaving them, and especially if you've got like tomato sauce or something like that in there that's acidic, those are going to be the most problematic.
Oh my gosh. And you'd mentioned that we should do reverse osmosis or bottled water, but the only bottled water we can do is in glass then.
Ideally, I recommend getting a reverse osmosis filter.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Luckily, I live on a well. I feel so privileged to live on a well. So if you can live in a house with a well, do it. And in Seattle, in north of Seattle, there's a neighborhood called Linwood, and there's a artesian well that's 400 feet deep, and it's open to the public. And before I moved to this house, when I was still on tap water in our apartment, my husband and I would drive like 40 minutes to this well and stand in line because there's always a line, even at night. And then we'd fill up all of our jugs, glass jugs. The least expensive glass jugs you can get are usually at a brewing cellar. They were very affordable, like $2-3 for these giant, gorgeous glass jugs, and we'd fill up like 10 of them in and keep them in large bins and take them home, and that would be our like 2-week supply of water. And so we got free well water for many years. But there are locations where you can find, in a lot of counties, where you can find a public artesian well. Unfortunately, they keep getting closed down, but the people of Linwood fought back and kept it open, and so it's actually monitored by the government and tested every month, and the waters remain safe, so it remains open. But it's easier to get a filter if you could afford a reverse osmosis filter, absolutely. So just so amazing that what is occurring in our day-to-day life, the environmental pollutants that are in our home, that are in our products, our cosmetics, that is in our tap water, it could create a disease. It's really scary.
Yeah, it's really quite sad. And to think about like all these things in our environment are potentially like poisoning us. One interesting thing is that for every one man that's affected with thyroid disease, there are 5 to 8 women who are affected. And so I often used to wonder about that. Why was it women had higher rates of thyroid disease? And there's definitely a hormonal component. So we know that pregnancy, puberty, and perimenopause are peak times when a woman might be diagnosed with a thyroid condition. And, the different estrogen causes you to have a greater demand for thyroid hormone. And if you don't have enough of certain nutrients on board, that might, as you're trying to produce more thyroid hormone, that might cause inflammation within your thyroid gland and kick off the autoimmune process. Or another thing is going to be the use of personal care products. So our personal care products, we have, when you think about an average woman, she uses at least twice as many as the average man. And that is exponentially higher number of chemicals. And these chemicals have not been tested for safety. They've only, with being a pharmacist, drugs are very much regulated. And there's the FDA, and there's this oversight, and then there's clinical trials you have to do. And some drugs don't even make it to the market because of all of the adverse reactions that they have. And some drugs get pulled from the market because of that. Well, there aren't studies like that done with any kind of, beauty products. I actually was an aspiring cosmetic chemist for a little while, so I took some courses on it. And most cosmetic chemists test the cosmetics on themselves, and that's about it. Maybe on some animals, but they're not doing blood tests. They're not figuring this stuff out. And a lot of these chemicals are endocrine disrupting chemicals that are going to be found in our lipstick, in our lotion. And from a pharmacology standpoint, when you're putting something on your lips, that means that's a mucus membrane, and you're going to have greater absorption of that. A study was done that showed that women who wear lipstick were more likely to have lupus, and this was thought to be because of lead. Now, another study was published by a Canadian group, and they found arsenic, lead, all kinds of crazy chemicals that if they were in a food, they would be banned in makeup products that like women were putting on their skin every day, like high-end cosmetics, you know what I mean? Or drugstore cosmetics. And so this is something that is really, really important. And I always tell women, as they're going through the liver support, to try to get rid of their toxins around them. And part of that is either doing a makeup makeover where you go through and you buy all organic products. You can go on the EWG website and then look at how the safety of all of the ingredients, and you want something between a 1 and a 3. I was shocked when I looked up my favorite perfumes and my favorite lipsticks, and they were like at like a 7 to 9.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you just have to, cleanse and purge. You get rid of those. You get stuff from Whole Foods. You order it online. I love Anne Marie Gianni skincare is a really great one. My Shell is another great one that works just as well, but it doesn't give you all those toxins. And then another reason why I think more women are affected by thyroid disease really goes back to our, kind of how we evolved, or our adaptive physiology. It's, I guess, sort of obvious that women carry the primary responsibility of bringing new life into this world, right? And so we have to be really tuned into our environment. Because let's say in cave woman days, if there wasn't enough food around, we would be probably better off not getting pregnant, right? So like if there happened to be a famine, it was probably better for the survival of the woman and the species to not get pregnant during that time, and to perhaps wait until the famine was done. And so, one of the main things that happens when you have a thyroid condition is fertility, so multiple miscarriages, or not being able to become pregnant. And so this is perhaps a way of our bodies to tune into things. Now, so women are going to be more sensitive to our environment. The other thing is, women are going to be, unfortunately, usually the targets of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and studies have shown that people who have had exposure to any kinds of abuse are going to have higher rates of autoimmune disease and thyroid hormone abnormalities. And so, again, like one of the things that I really stress with my clients is, what are you doing in your life that is making you feel like the times are not safe and that your thyroid gland needs to conserve energy and resources? And, obviously the biggest example is fertility, because when you get pregnant, like, you're literally feeding another human being from scratch, and you need more nutrients and resources. So that's an obvious, like if you're dieting, if you're eating processed foods, if you're eating inflammatory foods, that sends a signal to your body that the environment is not safe out there. But, also the other thyroid symptoms, like conserving our energy by making us sleep more and slowing down our metabolism so we keep more weight on, or making us, not have beautiful shiny hair and nice skin. This is your body going into survival mode. And that could be helpful, like when you're in a war or you're in a famine, that can actually help you survive and the species survive. So I always want to mention that is like, how do you send these safety signals to your body? And it's going to be with nourishing it, with providing it with love and care, surrounding it with beautiful people, beautiful things and people like that support you and love you, instead of, having those inflammatory people that don't support you. And it's just really a big thing that I recommend for everybody, is to try to think about, like, how do I send these safety signals to my body?
That makes so much sense. So thyroid, the body shuts down the thyroid when there's lack of nutrition. For example, when your body doesn't have enough selenium or iodine, when it notices you have a lack of nutrition, and like you shared that you had a digestive issue with heartburn, which is so common. And so heartburn is that body speak, the symptoms, the symptoms of the body is telling you, hey, I can't digest and absorb nutrition. So you're not getting enough nutrition right now because I can't digest. And what we do in modern day society is just take an antacid and keep moving on and keep eating whatever we want. But that down the road is going to lead to more and more problems, because as the body is more and more malnourished, then it, like you said, it goes into survival mode, and so it says, okay, we're going to shut down the thyroid, or we're going to downregulate thyroid function, and we're going to downregulate the ability to have children, because we can't support all those things right now, and we can't make healthy hair, skin, and nails, because those are not part of our survival mechanism, right? Like it's like I'm such a Trekkie geek, and so it's like the spaceship when Captain Picard says, divert energy from floors 1 through 7 or whatever to the shields, right? And so the body goes into that, like you said, that stress mode, or that the survival mode, almost like hibernation mode. And this is what I understand epigenetics is, where it shuts down or downregulates certain processes, like making beautiful, healthy hair, and goes to, okay, we're going to like make just like basic hair, or slow down making hair, because I'm going to take that nutrition and go heal the heart tissue, or go heal something that is part of survival, go heal the muscles so we can run away from the bear. And so then once we figure things out and we stop eating the foods that are causing us to not be able to digest and absorb nutrition, and start eating foods that are going to decrease inflammation, and support a healthy liver, so the liver can get the toxic waste out of our body and handle the environmental pollutants and things like that have accumulated in our body. And then support the adrenals, so we can begin to start to have energy again and wake up again. And then support the gut, so we can digest and absorb nutrition. And now all these cells are being nourished. And then what you're saying is, now we need to tell the body, hey, it's okay, we're safe. It's okay to wake up. And so surrounding ourselves with people that aren't going to trigger our stress response, or doing more things, like surrounding ourselves with more positive things, so that on a day-to-day basis we have less and less of the stress response happening, and more signals to the neurology in our body to tell us it's okay, you can heal, you can go into heal mode, you don't have to, like, to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, so we don't have to be in that stress or that fight or flight response. Did I kind of sum it up?
Yeah, very beautifully. And it's like you said, it could be anything that sends that response to the body, whether it's an infection or not enough food, or even people in your life, right? Or even your past trauma. So it's a matter of sending these signals to your body. And I think when you think about it this way, it's much more empowering than the conventional medical approach, which is about, kind of suppressing the thyroid, medicating the thyroid, cutting out the thyroid, radiating the thyroid, and even some of the approaches that patients have, which is to be a thyroid warrior or to beat thyroid disease, where really when you're a warrior, the thing that you're fighting in autoimmune disease is yourself. And so when you think about what the thyroid gland is trying to do for you, it's actually trying to help you out. So it's seeing that you're struggling, and it's saying, oh man, I see you don't have enough food. Like, let me help you out with that. And let me help you hold on to those 20 extra pounds, which is, of course, an ancient adaptation system living in a modern world where we never run out of food. But, our body hasn't quite caught up with, with that. It's like, imagine showing up in your great grandmother's genes to like a party today. And that's really what they're not going to be fashionable. They're going to be out of place. And that's sort of what's happening with our, genetics. We literally are showing up with our ancestors' genes in a modern world because our genes haven't changed that much. It's our environment that's changed, and we haven't had a chance to catch up. But, not all is lost. We actually have ways we can be healthy in our modern world. We just have to think about, okay, how do I make myself feel safe? And how do I send my body these signals in a language that my body can understand, right?
Yes, it makes so much sense. Now, for those who are on medication, so they have either hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, and they're listening right now, and they are on medication, what kind of advice can you give them? Are they on medication for the rest of their life? Do some people healthfully get off their medication and restore their thyroid to full function once they've supported the entire system, the whole ecosystem of their body to be healthy? Because what I'm really seeing, what you're sharing, is that your thyroid is your friend. It's not this thing you're fighting. It's not against you. It's part of the system. And when the system is off, then the thyroid is responding so that you can have immediate survival. And the best thing to do is to help the whole system become healthy again, so the thyroid can say, okay, I'm going to be healthy again, which makes so much sense. And this is kind of the mindset we can apply to all autoimmune conditions, because it's not the body fighting us. It is the body responding in the best way possible. And I think that's something that we need to remember, is that your body isn't stupid. It is it's like the smartest thing. It's smarter than, if you look at the mind, the brain, the brain is phenomenal. You cannot build a computer on this planet that is more miraculous than the human body. And it's so smart, and we've been here for so many years on this planet that and we've had to deal with so many situations, evolving, that the body has adapted and has these kind of backup plans. And so we have to understand that the body's going to respond in the best way possible to ensure survival, right? And so when we come back to heal, we need to know that the body's on our side, and we just have to listen to those symptoms so we can help the body heal. And a lot of times coming to someone like you and hiring you as our health coach and as our guide to help us decode these messages the body's giving us, so that we can figure out what the body's trying to say, what the body needs. Because sometimes we really need someone to hold our hand and go, okay, let's go look at this together. So that's why I love what you do, because you're here to empower people to figure out what it is that their body is needing in order to heal. Now, for those who have, to come back to my original question, for those who have a thyroid condition and they're on medication, is it possible for them to heal fully? Or do some people need to always be on medication? What does it look like for them?
Yeah, so that's such a great question. And it's one that I get very commonly. And when I was first starting off, I wanted to know if this was possible. And a lot of conventional medicine physicians and even functional medicine physicians said, no, once you're on a thyroid hormone medication, you're going to be stuck on it. And that makes sense, because thyroid tissue gets damaged, and it's easier to prevent the damage than it is to regenerate thyroid tissue. But then I started looking into different studies, and I saw that their thyroid function spontaneously recurred in about 20% of people within 10 to 20 years after being started on thyroid hormones. But the thing was that because people were taking thyroid hormones, the hormones were built into their bodies and were built into their system. And so it's like they never became hyperthyroid, where their body didn't start rejecting it. It was like kind of over time where the thyroid function, the inflammation, resolved, and the thyroid was like healed up. And in a way, thyroid hormones can help a person to not have as much damage to their thyroid gland. So it's basically you take a thyroid hormone, and then your body is not putting as much pressure on the thyroid gland, and this helps your thyroid heal up. Of course, you have to do other things as well, like get rid of the source of the attack of inflammation to truly heal. But yeah, in some cases, we do see that people go through these lifestyle changes and go through these interventions and figure out what their root causes are. And sometimes, I've had a few clients that have had H. pylori as a root cause. They treated that infection, and lo and behold, they no longer were able to take the dosage of thyroid hormone. They started to wean off of their thyroid medications. So that was like a quick turnaround, right? The parasite Blastocystis hominis, I've had some clients, for them, that was the root cause. And then they got rid of the parasite, and then they were able to get off of their thyroid meds. For others, it was getting off of gluten. And then, in many cases, it's like you identify the triggers. And first, I look for the thyroid antibodies, which are a marker of inflammation of the thyroid gland. Like, I want to see those get to the level of what a normal person would have. So above 35 is considered that you're testing positive for Hashimoto's. And 1 or 2 should be somewhere of a normal person. And then the higher the number, the more aggressive the attack is on your thyroid gland. And so in some cases, I have seen people who've been able to get off of medication spontaneously after they got rid of their triggers, their thyroid antibodies resolved, and then, they were able to wean off of their medications. In other cases, I've seen people who got rid of all of their symptoms, got rid of even their antibodies, and they still had to stay on medication. Then I learned about a treatment known as low-level laser therapy. So this is like modern technology helping us out. And this is basically the cold laser, and you apply it over the thyroid gland. 5 to 10 treatments over the course of 5 weeks is what was studied. Helped 50% of people get off of their medications completely. So there are, it's kind of like there are various ways for people to get off of thyroid hormones, and it's definitely possible. I don't like to tell people that should be their ultimate goal. I feel like their goal should be to feel their best and be healthy and reduce the inflammation in their body. And then, use hormones as needed, because every now and then I have a person who is resistant to taking thyroid hormones, but they can be really helpful in your journey in the process. And I also don't think there should be any shame in needing to take medications, whether that's for short term or long term. If you need them, you need them. That's what they're there for. And, in fact, thyroid hormones are not necessarily even medications. They're going to be bioidentical to what our body normally produces, especially if you take something like natural desiccated thyroid, right? So that's my little spiel from a pharmacist's mind.
No, I really appreciate that, and I agree. I think that use the best tool. Unfortunately, when you go to an MD, they only have one tool in their toolbox, whereas when you go to a holistic coach like yourself, or when you go to a naturopath, you go to someone who's in the holistic field, they're more likely to be passionate about studying the latest evidence-based natural medicine, and they're more likely to kind of be open to all the new possibilities out there and then finding the best one. And so, if taking a medication, a prescription, I should say, if taking a prescription is going to be the best tool for you in the short term or the long term, in addition to addressing the root cause and helping the body heal, then that's the best case. And I love that there's research that shows that in some cases taking that medication was actually protecting the thyroid and kind of giving it a break and letting it heal, which is great that they saw that in 20% of people the thyroid could heal itself over time if given half a chance. And this cold laser is really exciting. I keep hearing about it from different people, so that's really neat to look into. When someone would want that, is there a specific name, or do you have is there some more information about that, or do you have information on your website, or would someone contact you if they wanted, if besides the cold laser, if there's anything that you said that was really interesting to someone, or if someone wanted to work with you, would be the best way to get that information?
Yeah, so a few different ways. And my goal is to get people not to work with me and to try, because there's only one of me, and I used to work with people one-on-one quite a bit. And I'm always thinking about there's 27% of our population has Hashimoto's, and how do I help them all? This is the other thing that keeps me up at night. And so I have a ton of great resources on my website, thyroidpharmacist.com, and people can find really, really great information. And I try to write a new blog post every week or so that can give them helpful tools and tips. I have a documentary that I directed called The Thyroid Secret. And that goes through, it's with over 100 of my colleagues that are just doing amazing work in the field of thyroid conditions. And we talk about cold laser therapy in there. We talk about stem cell therapy, nutrients, all that good stuff in there. I have a book called The Hashimoto's Protocol that's coming out March 28th. And that walks them through the supporting the liver, adrenals, and the gut. I have a book called Hashimoto's The Root Cause that talks about my entire root cause approach and how I recovered my health. That was written in 2013, and it's got over 1,000 reviews now at this point from people who've been able to recover their health using that book. And I also have some options for consulting at thyroidpharmacistconsulting.com, where people can either sign up to work with me or one of my consultants, or access a practitioner database of other people that we recommend. Because, truly my mission is to create global change for thyroid disease. Like, I want every single person to get diagnosed sooner, so they don't have to be told that they're, mentally ill, infertile, or lazy, or, have forked mouth disease, or whatever crazy things people are hearing. And I want to make sure people can get optimized on their hormones, and that people are looking for the root causes. So I'm just always, it goes beyond me. This is really a movement of wanting to get better care for people with thyroid conditions. And so many of us are women affected. So those are some resources. And I also have a gift for people, thyroidpharmacist.com/gift, where they can get some diet starting guide tools, as well as some information on the common nutrient depletions and how to address those, just to get people started on the right path. This is, thyroid and Hashimoto's. This is kind of my baby, and this is what I'm really passionate about, is getting this message out to the world. And definitely connect with me on the website. And I also have a Facebook page, Thyroid Lifestyle, where I like to pop in and answer some questions, hour or two a day, and just try to keep up with everybody to see how I could serve them and help people recover their health. Because I know for me, like, thyroid disease left me, I lost most of my 20s because of thyroid disease and undiagnosed thyroid disease. And even after the diagnosis, I was still too tired to, participate in my own life. And my dreams and all these things that I wanted to do and ambitions I set out for myself just seemed like distant fantasies. And since I've recovered my health, like, I've written 2 books now. Like, I became a New York Times bestseller. I have a business where I have women and men who I've been able to hire so that they can become thyroid advocates. I have, I'm now a movie director and an author, and it's just amazing because I never thought that was possible for myself when I was waking up, going to work, coming home, eating, and passing out on the couch every day.
I am so excited for the journey you're on and the difference you're making in the world. I'm so thrilled for your latest book to come out, the Hashimoto's Protocol. I just know it's going to make such a huge difference in so many lives. So thank you for everything you're doing, and I absolutely get it. You lost over 10 years of your life, more than that. And you really, because when you were 18 all the way up to when you were in your early 30s, you were experiencing this. And as much as you sacrificed, and this sacrificed and you suffered, what you are doing now and what you've learned from it. I think the most important thing we can do in life is to learn from the issues that we have to face, the hurdles we have to face. We learn from it. And then once we learn and we integrate those learnings, we can then turn around and help others. And that's exactly what you're doing. And that's why I'm here on the Learn Your Health podcast. My goal is to make this ripple effect turn into a tidal wave so we can help millions of people gain their health back, and we can be part of this movement. Dr. Izabella Wentz, thank you so much for being on the show. I actually have so many more questions for you. I really want to have you back on the show at some point because I just, so many more questions, and I'm sure my listeners will have lots of more questions for you as well. Definitely check out Dr. Wentz's book, Hashimoto's Protocol. The links to everything that Dr. Wentz does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast. Good luck to you on your new book being released, and I hope it is for a very long time on the bestsellers list, and we're going to help you achieve that as well. It's been such a pleasure having you today. I'd love for you to share any parting words that you'd like to share with our listeners before ending the episode.
Wow. And, thank you so much to having me on. This has been just such an amazing time to have the opportunity to connect with you. For, if you're listening at home and if you're struggling with your health, I want you to know that you can recover your health. You can absolutely get better. You can follow all of those dreams you have. And please don't let anybody else tell you that the things you want are not possible. They're going to be possible. You can recover your health. You are going to have to work for it. So make sure that you're in the driver's seat and make sure that you're in charge of your own health. And then, put people around you that can help you, whether it's a coach or a practitioner, and, learn as much as you can and be empowered, because people who are empowered and people who know about their conditions have the best potential, the best possible outcomes. And they're the ones that are the success stories that I see. And, they go on to do great things. So I've had clients who've gone back to horseback riding where they couldn't do this for 10 years. I've had readers who were like, hey, I'm writing my own book. I'm writing, they've been novelists and health books, and all kinds of wonderful resources, cookbooks have been created by people who have recovered their own health. And, it just, when you recover your health, it opens up so many doors and possibilities for you to create, whether that is change in the world, helping others, creating a baby, creating a new life, whatever you dream it and whatever your distant fantasy is, it can happen once you get your health back. And so I hope you know that you're worth it. And I hope that you know how important you are as a person, and that you absolutely deserve to be healthy, and you deserve to take time for yourself and make these changes for yourself.
Wonderful and beautifully said. Thank you so much again, Dr. Izabella Wentz. It's been such a pleasure, and I look forward to having you back on the show again.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, And you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.